So again, I think this goes back to like why time management will make you a happier individual. Guys, welcome back to Mimir. Today we're doing a solo episode. I want to talk about time. Time is the one commodity that we cannot buy more of. So therefore, time management is your greatest weapon as a CEO and like also frankly just as like a person. I think that time management is one of my superpowers. I don't know why, but I've always been really good at it. I think I learned how to do it in school, and then I just like kept applying it over time until now it's sort of just like a reflex and something that I'm actually really proud of. I get questions all the time about how I balance my 9-to-5 job, my podcast, my new tech venture, in addition to exercising on a regular basis and like maintaining some semblance of social life. So I want to talk a lot about that today. And I want to talk about also why I think it's really important to manage your time effectively, not just because you're going to be more productive, but I genuinely think that if you're really good at managing your time, you're going to be a happier individual. Think about it. I think a lot of anxiety comes from the fact that you have all these impending tasks that you need to do but aren't getting done because like you don't have structure, you don't know how to fit everything in. So like you're just stressing yourself out because you have all this shit to do and you don't know how to get it done. But with time management, like all of that goes away. So you're going to be less stressed, you're going to be like much happier in general. And this is just a muscle like anything else. You have to practice time management, and it's something that you will get better at over time. So today I'm going to deep dive into time management. I'm going to be showing you how to set up your weeks and days for maximum efficiency and productivity. This will be a step-by-step with the exact template I use, so you can actually start implementing this stuff like right now. But before I jump into the templates and the planners that I use, I want to talk about how you currently spend your time so you can better understand how you should be prioritizing it. Something I've learned from all the interviews that I've done with entrepreneurs and business coaches is that the best way to start getting time back and really understand exactly how you're spending your energy is to do like an audit of how you're spending your time. Some people will call this audit automate, delegate, eliminate, or some iteration of that. But essentially what that means is that you're going to be writing down all of the things you do during the day and placing them into those 3 categories. This will show you exactly how much time you're spending on things that you could be delegating, automating, or eliminating, so then you can really start to get time back. For my business owners, this is critical because like, yes, this will show you how to get actual time back in your day, but it's also going to highlight the tasks that only you as the CEO can do. And then that way you can focus on those. So then you're showing up as like a better founder and you're putting energy into the things that really make a difference for your business. This is something that I want to talk about some more, but it's an important concept. So keep that in your mind. The little like extra spice that I like to add to this audit process is I like to add another category of things you like hate doing. So ask yourself, if you never had to do X thing again, would you be really excited to do that? So like that would go into like, the hate category as opposed to the automate, delegate, or eliminate category. I want to ground this into a personal example so it becomes clear why this is so valuable. I personally did this audit recently because I was feeling really overwhelmed. I felt like I was drowning under a mountain of shit, but I also felt like none of the work that I had been doing was like really moving the needle that much more forward. So I needed to understand what tasks were taking up the most time and were also not really moving my podcast and my business forward. What I found was that I had a really big issue with social media. I had separate accounts for each platform. So for TikTok, YouTube, well, not YouTube, but TikTok and Instagram, I had like separate accounts. I also had a YouTube account. So every week I was posting on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube, and each social post would take so much time because like I was making unique Instagram stories, sourcing covers, creating captions, and like separating them for each platform. So it took a really long time to do, and it was like quite Herculean in terms of tasks. Before I did the audit, like I knew it took a shit ton of time. That's not the point, but I rationalized that amount of time as like a cost of doing business. I was thinking about it like I was building this Instagram presence from the ground up, which takes a lot of time, not to mention that like in order for the brand to succeed, it has to have its own account. That's what everyone told me. So I just kept going. But eventually I got to the point where I was just going through the motions, ticking the box, because I felt like I had to be doing those things to be successful, because that's what everyone tells you that you have to do in order to be successful. So I had this like icky feeling about the whole process. And then when I did the audit results, it was very clear like how much I just hated posting and the way that I was posting. Truly fell into like that if I never had to post on social media again, I would never do it and I would be thrilled. And what that made me decide was like, I was like, okay, it's just not working, right? So I took a week off posting, I stopped worrying about it, and I felt immediately refreshed. I felt lighter, more productive, more motivated. So I knew I was on the right track. Looking back, of course, this had like a slight impact on numbers in terms of podcast listens, but like, who cares? Like, I'm still a small podcast. Like, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The point that I'm trying to get across here is that I was spending so much time and energy on one, something that I didn't want to be doing, and two, if you looked at the numbers for engagement on the social post, particularly on Instagram, it wasn't big. So I was spending energy on shit that I hated and wasn't actually moving the needle. So that brings me to like, what do you do next? Like, how do you take this information and then apply it to your business? For me, what that looked like was I was like, okay, do I stop posting entirely? Like, how can I continue to get the word out about the podcast without draining myself in the process? I think this is an important thing for a lot of business owners to consider, because you're going to apply this exercise and this story to something that you already have in your life, right? Like, you're going to be like, okay, for you it's maybe not social media, but for you it's something else. And so you're like, how can I continue to build my business with this key component without having to drain myself in the process? The conclusion that I came to is that I can do whatever I want. Like, it was a very freeing moment for me. It sounds obvious, but when I sat back and realized like it's my brand, just because other people recommend, posting on social media this way doesn't mean that it's the only way to succeed or that it's going to be the right answer for your business. And so the high level takeaway here is that there's really no right or wrong way to find your business's path to success. Think about it, like every founder is unique, so therefore every business is unique. And what works for one might not work for the other because the founders are different. So I decided to test a theory, like what would happen if I posted the podcast on my personal TikTok, for example. And I had done so much work previous to the podcast going live on my personal TikTok to talk about it, to generate awareness, and then to be posting on a completely separate account was wasting all the energy that I had done beforehand. So when I posted it on my personal page, it got 2,000 views in one day. It got comments and saves and like a ton of other engagement that the podcast TikTok never did, which proved my theory. The main takeaway here that I'm trying to say is like, test a theory, just try it out, like see what happens. Like, we put so much pressure on ourselves to make these big decisions, and if they don't work out, then like it's a failure. But really, like, just come at it from the angle of like testing a theory and see what works and fits with you. So what I'm trying to drill down into here is that like you really just have to do what works for you, and you don't have to worry about what people are telling you. And I'm not saying like don't heed advice. I think it's important to listen to people around you, but just like I'm kind of just saying like fuck the status quo. What works for you might not work for others, and that's actually great. That means that there's more room for you to succeed in only the way that you can. Listen to yourself first, because like you're the only person who's going to be able to build this business sustainably for you. And I think that this applies to life in general. So for those of you who are listening that don't necessarily have a business, apply this to your lives, your relationships, and your jobs. Like, think about, what part of your job do you not like doing? Like, is there a way for you to automate, delegate, or eliminate? Like, is there a way for you to find a different path that's more fulfilling for you while also being able to maintain the goals that you have? I think that like this is how you will find long-term happiness and success, by doing what works for you, not against what works for you. The second key thing that I want you to remember from this section is that to get your time back as a CEO, you have to start by auditing your days. That way you can solely focus on tasks that only you can do. Everything else should be falling into those categories of automate, delegate, or eliminate. If you guys have more questions about like this audit process, how it works, what results you get, or just like more details about the process, check out my episode with Matthew Sanjari or Tracy Birmingham, because they both dive really deep into this. So I'll link those in the show notes if you want to get more information on that. But now that you understand how you're spending your time, let's talk about how to maximize your personal efficiency every single week. Step one, this is obvious, but get a planner. Some sort of tool that includes a calendar view, goal setting, and task keeping. Those are really the three things. If your planner does not have those, get a new one. If you're not using a planner, get yourself a planner. You just need one. Anyway, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I will be showing you on the screen exactly what my weekly and daily planning looks like so you can copy it for yourself. Also, the link is in the description to the exact planner that I use. So if you want to pause it, go buy it, download it, and then fill this out with me, I would highly recommend that. If you're tuning in on audio and you're a visual learner, please just go to YouTube because it will be much more meaningful for you. But anyway, let's get into it. So we're going to start with setting your week up for success. I usually do this on Monday mornings. I grab my little coffee, and before any meetings and any real work gets done, I plan my weeks. First, I'm going to fill in what my 9 to 5 main goals are for the week, and then I do the same with personal stuff. So this is where the podcast/tech platform stuff lives. I also sometimes include any goals for exercise or self-care, like doing my nails, packing for a trip. Then I will go through and fill out which days do things need to be due. So for example, if I have a piece of content that needs to be revised by Wednesday for my 9 to 5 job, I will mark that accordingly. This will come in handy later when you go to plan your days. Essentially, what you're doing with this exercise is you're setting up a high-level view of your week, so when it comes time for each day, you know what can be accomplished in order to accomplish your weekly goals. The reason you need the week view is the same reason you need monthly goals. If you're only doing daily planning, you're stuck in the weeds, you're unable to see how you're moving the needle with your daily tasks. You need to zoom out and see the big picture. To achieve your monthly goals, you need to set weekly goals that are in line with your monthly goals. So then they basically are all adding up to create your monthly goals. And the same goes with your week and then your days. I personally do quarterly goals, and then I can break that down into what do I have to do each month to meet those quarter goals, and daily and weekly planning helps me achieve that. So now that you understand the how and the why behind weekly planning, let's talk day planning. To set up my day for maximum productivity and efficiency, I start by writing out my hard scheduled items. So these are meetings, workouts, driving time, etc. Essentially anything that's time sensitive and scheduled. After that, I go through my weekly plan and include anything that was written for that day into the non-negotiables for that corresponding day. Then I usually check my emails to see what other tasks have popped up last minute that I need to write down. And then I go back to my daily schedule and then fill out work blocks so I know exactly what I'm supposed to be working on, when, and for how long. This will keep me efficient and focused throughout the day. This particular aspect of making work blocks was a game changer for me. Before I started doing this, I knew what I needed to do each day based on my non-negotiables and my tasks, but not having work blocks meant that I was jumping between tasks, getting sidetracked, or getting lost in a task to the point where I ended up forgetting about everything else that I was supposed to be doing. And that throws off the whole week. So this is a must do. After the schedule is finished and the planning is done, you can finally get started on your day. I'm sure by this point, some of you are like, but Maddie, what if a bunch of stuff pops up that derails your day? Of course things are going to come up. So let's say that you got a bunch of urgent messages from your boss and you have more to do than you thought. In these scenarios, give yourself grace, but also be firm. I think this is an important one. When you start to set time management goals and you start to schedule things out, I think you become more aware of your boundaries and you're able to sort of push them back because you have evidence, right? So in this example, right, you're going to go to your boss and you're going to be okay, here's what I had set for my priorities for the week. If you want me to add all of these urgent tasks, that's totally fine, but just help me understand how I should be reprioritizing. And if they see that, they're probably going to be okay, no, those things are still a priority, or maybe this is, but it allows you to come to the conversation with leverage to say here's how I've structured my time. If you feel I should be working in other things, please let me know. And maybe most of the time they're probably gonna be you know what, actually you're right, the way that you have it set up is correct, don't worry about it, you can deliver these things next week when you have more bandwidth. And again, if they say no, these are things are totally a priority, then they can help you be okay, now this thing can move to next week. So then everyone is very clear on exactly what priorities are for the week and like what's getting pushed back. So you're communicating effectively as a result. Also, this doesn't allow you just to come with leverage. You're also, your coworkers will start to respect you even more because you'll still be seen as a team player, but you're also not somebody who's like a pushover. Like, you're not just going to take on a bunch of shit and like drown in silence. Like, you're very clear about what's going on with your life and with your day, and like if they want to bring something to you, you're happy to help, but you have to work around what you're able to accomplish. So again, I think this goes back to like why time management will make you a happier individual. On the other hand, let's say you're hella efficient and you knocked out all of your tasks ahead of schedule, in which case, like, fab, that's exciting. The next step that I would recommend then is to go back to your weekly and monthly goals to see what you can accomplish now that you have more time. Also, like, it's a good sign for you to be like, oh, things don't take me as long as I thought that they did, and then you can start to maybe like add more things in your plate so you're not just like bored during the day. The point of the daily planning and weekly planning and the audit is to just give you some visibility so you can simply be aware. You make the calls at the end of the day, but without the visibility, you're like wandering around in a dark forest with a dying flashlight. Like, you're just simply lost. I hope this was really helpful to you guys. I included all the stuff that I talked about, including the template that I use, in the show notes. So if you want to step up your planning game, check it out. If you guys have more questions about this, like, please comment them below or in the reviews, and I will be more than happy to chat through this stuff. I love it. So please let me know if you guys have questions. And if there's something else you want me to be covering in the solo episodes, I'd also love to know. But in the meantime, I will see you guys next week.